Godzilla.
At the time of writing this script, it's only been about 2 hours since I got back from seeing Godzilla Minus One. I wanted to see it far sooner, but theaters where I live only just started to show it a few days ago, and I was fortunate enough to snag an IMAX viewing as soon as I could. While this is a mostly spoiler-free review, I will discuss some spoiler content here and there, so I'll let you know when that happens. Godzilla Minus One is the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise, and the 33rd to be released by Toho Studios. The film's synopsis on IMDb reads, "Post-war Japan is at its lowest point when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster, baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb." Despite the fact that many people have likely seen it by now, I felt compelled to put this video out as soon as I could. When I got back from the theater, I knew I had to tell whoever hasn't seen it yet to go watch it as soon as they could. I make no exaggerations here when I say Godzilla Minus One is legitimately one of the best films I've seen this year. I even choked up a bit. Yeah, a Godzilla movie almost made me cry. It expertly manages to strike the perfect balance between terrifically terrifying monster movie madness and heartfelt, heavy, and well-written character stories. Oh, and speaking of characters, I never thought I'd say this, but a big part of why this movie is so good are the humans. I'm not joking. This is the first time a Godzilla movie, or arguably most monster movies, ever made me actively want to see more of the human story. Look, Godzilla is a massive guilty pleasure of mine, but in past movies, I'd be hard-pressed to remember most of the humans' names. Let's be honest here, the only real reason we watch these is to see a giant, powerful monster tear shit up. I'm not immune to walking nuclear laser lizard breaks everything. I'm very happy to say Godzilla Minus One is no exception, and features some of the best Godzilla sequences and set pieces ever, especially in the second and third acts. Godzilla here isn't some misunderstood anti-hero of nature fighting to restore balance or whatever. He's truly a monster, a horrific beast causing death and destruction everywhere he goes. It's all perfectly underscored by Naoki Sato's incredible soundtrack, with amazing original music and covers paying homage to the original Akira Ifukube Godzilla main title. As for Goji himself, his unearthly glory comes out in full force. Each shot is perfectly framed to make his presence as threatening as possible. This design choice kind of struck me as a remix of his original look in 1954. He looks especially craggly here, if that makes any sense, like he was chiseled out of the ocean floor. Despite this, Godzilla actually ends up surprisingly mobile, leading to a lot more expression from him and movement than we've seen before. I especially love how his dorsal fins pop out as he charges his atomic breath and shunt back down once he fires it. Chef's kiss, no notes, mwah. However, while Godzilla Minus One definitely delivers on the visually fantastic Godzilla action sequences you paid to see, the film goes the extra mile with an emotionally resonant human narrative. Both stories build each other up rather than dragging the other down or using each other as a crutch. The human characters here and their relationships with one another are amazingly written. They feel like actual, full people with hopes and struggles, and I felt connected to them throughout the movie. I really came to believe their bond and genuinely wanted to see them live throughout all the carnage that ensued. It all comes together to form a nice found family story that, while found family stories are familiar, it's done here in a unique way that isn't in your face. This is where I start to get into some light spoiler territory, so if you want to see Godzilla Minus One as blindly as possible, then either stop watching the video now, go see the movie, like right now, or skip to here to avoid them. Or don't, I'm not your dad. Or a mutant nuke lizard from the ocean.
It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not.
Still, we should run like it is Godzilla!
Though it isn't.
My favorite character arc of the movie is the film's protagonist, an ex-kamikaze pilot named Shikishima. His arc parallels post-World War II Japan's people in many ways. It skillfully draws the audience into the struggles of that time. In a way, Shikishima is Japan. Both are reeling from some of the worst horrors of war in history. In fact, the title of the movie reflects this, and it's confirmed by the director, how Japan was at its lowest point after the war, 0. And Godzilla's Rising brings it below that, to -1. Toiling against all odds to rebuild from basically nothing, all while nuclear politics continue to cause even more problems for them. The US refusing to help fight Godzilla and basically backing the Japanese government into a corner because they don't want to provoke the Soviets, forcing Japanese citizens to take matters into their own hands despite an American nuke having caused everything in the first place. It's way too real, and it is an excellent adaptation of Godzilla's original symbolism as an allegory for the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Godzilla Minus One approaches this symbolism more broadly, focusing on the people of post-war Japan as a whole. This is especially evidenced through Shikishima's past as a kamikaze pilot who couldn't shoot down Godzilla when he had the chance. Shikishima is racked with survivor's guilt from the experience, especially when he returns home to find it torn apart by an air raid while he was gone. You really get to feel the weight of this burden when a homeless woman named Noriko and an orphan baby girl named Akiko enter Shikishima's life and he starts to care for them and look after them. You understand how much his grief has made him feel like a ghost, struggling to keep his grasp on reality and still feel worthy to have lived despite his inaction. This pain grows into a vendetta when the very monster he failed to kill begins to terrorize Japan, a walking reminder of everything he hates about war, threatening not just the country, but the people he loves. I especially love the arc following his neighbor, where she's really mad at him for having lived at first, but after seeing how much he cares for these people, she really comes around and kind of becomes part of the family, just like everybody else does. There's really a strong sense of family in this. I really can't come up with anything too negative about Godzilla Minus One, though if I had to nitpick, I'd say that the second act wanes a bit in pace as we get to know the characters more, including some new ones. Considering how the first act ended, the movie kind of feels like it loses a little steam. Fortunately, though, it doesn't last too long, and in the end, it's all worth it to build a deeper connection to these characters. It's only enhanced by the phenomenal acting, especially that of these three, whose names are up on screen now, because while I'm confident in a lot of my pronunciation skills, I definitely don't want to risk butchering theirs. In conclusion, Godzilla Minus One teaches both the protagonist and the audience not to let trauma control or define you, to let go of the ghosts of your past, and cherish those you love now. The people of Japan learn to come together and fight the monster head-on, not a fight to the death, but a fight to live for a better future. Because if you truly value saving lives and futures, you can't waste them. You have to believe there's a future worth fighting for. It's an excellent Godzilla movie that truly stands on its own, owing a lot of its success to the hard-working cast and crew, and their amazingly talented writer and director, Takashi Yamazaki. I always appreciate it when a director is heavily involved with their movie's VFX team, and Yamazaki taking on the prior two roles and being a VFX supervisor is a lot of insanely hard work that really paid off. I'm excited to see more Yamazaki monster movie stuff. So is he, apparently. After this film and Shin Godzilla before it, the future of Japanese Godzilla movies is looking bright. Go see Godzilla Minus One. I know I'll be back in that theater eager for more of the Big G. You know, out of curiosity, let's see how Western Goji is doing. Oh. Okay. This looks great. Yeah! Godzilla X Kong, alright, I get to see it finally! I get to see the giant monkey and the giant lizard! Fuck!
Have you ever thought about wearing shoes?
Old Godzilla was hopping around Tokyo City like a big playground when suddenly Batman burst from the shade and hit Godzilla with a bat grenade. Godzilla got pissed and began to attack, but didn't expect to be blocked by Shaq, who proceeded to open up a can of Shaq Fu when Aaron Carter came out of the blue.